How far have you seen someone go to follow the rules? My 8-year-old son had been acting weird all morning at the airport, mumbling to himself and smacking his lips. I tried my best to ignore it, but 20 minutes after takeoff, his right hand started jerking uncontrollably, and his eyes started jittering. He stopped after a second, but I knew what it was. I immediately grabbed his epilepsy medication, but as I read the bottle, I realized that I had the wrong ones. He was taking the wrong medication all day, and was about to have a massive seizure. His emergency medication was in my bag in the overhead bin, just 3 feet above me. I was watching as his face turned gray, looking at me to help him. I knew I had no other choice, so I jumped up to grab it out of the bag, but as I started reaching for it, I could see someone rushing down the aisle in the corner of my eye. The flight attendant came up and slammed the bin shut. "Sir, the seatbelt sign is on. You need to sit down right now." I told her my son was having a seizure and needed his rescue medication, but she actually pushed me back into my seat. "No exceptions during turbulence. That's federal law. You need to comply." "Please, he needs his medication," I begged, trying to stand again as my son's twitching started again, spreading to his whole arm. The flight attendant blocked me completely, and that's when she noticed me clutching my backpack. "What's that in your hand?" I was holding the old pill bottle. Her face lit up with disgust. "You have medication right there. I can see it. You're lying to access your luggage." I shook the bottle desperately. "No, these are the wrong pills. These are his old daily meds. They don't work." She stopped me again. "I saw you with your pills. You're trying to trick me." My son's arm was now jerking rhythmically. "Look at the label. These are preventative, not rescue meds." She wouldn't even glance at the bottle. "You have medication. End of discussion. Sit down or be restrained." My son's seizure suddenly exploded, the turbulence only making it worse. His whole body was shaking now, his head slamming against the window. Someone claiming to be a nurse jumped up. "That's a grand mal seizure. He needs benzodiazepine, not whatever pills he's holding." The attendant pointed at me. "Ma'am, he has the medication already. It's right there." My son bit his tongue, as red was now pouring onto his shirt. The attendant pulled out zip ties. "Everyone sit down." He admitted having his medication. My son's face was going blue, as more passengers were screaming. The attendant radioed, "Multiple hostile passengers need backup immediately." Another attendant arrived. My son stopped breathing between convulsions. I held up the useless pills. "These don't work for seizures." The other attendants tried to grab the bag from me despite her orders, but she announced loudly, "Do not open those bins. Follow protocol, or I'll have your jobs." My son went completely rigid, then limp. I knew this was the stage where his brain would start to shut down. My tears were streaming as I felt completely helpless, but the entire cabin exploded. I knew I wasn't letting this woman stop me. I stood up again and shoved the attendant hard into the seats. She was in complete shock, screaming at the other attendants to help, but they didn't want to. Other passengers formed a human wall against her, physically blocking both attendants while I tore open the bin. The nurse was already helping. 3 minutes without proper medication. I found the right meds, as my hands were literally shaking. The nurse helped me administer it while passengers kept that disgusting woman away. I still remember hearing someone shout, "If this kid dies, you're all witnesses." I didn't even care. I could hear people around me praying it would work. 40 seconds of watching my son's blue-tinged face, but finally, his body relaxed. He stayed unconscious, as the nurse checked his pupils over and over. The flight attendant was standing back, watching in awe. My son's breathing was almost invisible. The nurse knew something was still wrong. She said, "He needs oxygen immediately." The attendant, surrounded by furious passengers, actually said, "We need the pilot's approval before we can do that." Then, 20 people started screaming at once, phones recording everywhere as passengers shouted, "You need to let her save her son. It's all on video. You saying she was lying?" By then, the pilots were alerted, and the captain was already making an emergency landing. Everyone was sobbing now, as nobody knew if my son was gonna make it. The second we hit the ground, paramedics rushed on and took him. One looked at the scattered pills on the floor, then at the emergency kit. His mother had preventative meds, needed rescue meds, and you prevented access. The attendant tried to claim I'd assaulted her, but 5 passengers immediately showed videos. Then it got crazy, because he took out his radio and reported an attempted homicide. The flight attendant didn't get to finish with her excuses, because she was now the one being restrained. She was arrested for aggravated child endangerment with special circumstances, and in court, 12 passenger videos showed her repeatedly saying, "I saw her pills already," while my son was seizing. He'll probably never set foot on a plane again.